Hey teammates, word is bond is what we're going to be talking about today when we get to the teammate talk stuff. First of all, if you didn't catch last week's episode of Teammate Talks where we were talking about discipline, let me see, I believe the title was Don't Let Them Do It For You. You've got to check that out. That was a fire episode. That was a great episode. It was really uplifting for me to get all that off my chest, and I think it'd be uplifting for a lot of other people to take the time to listen to it as well. So if you get the chance to go back and check out the last week's episode of Teammate Talks of the podcast, just search out Teammate Talks wherever you get your podcast. That's iTunes or there's tons of places you can find it. And find the episode that's called Don't Let Them Do It For You. That's the one I did last week, and man, it was something else. You can also find it on our website if you don't normally do the podcast thing. You can go to oaklykicks.com/podcast, which I'll go ahead and put in there, and you can go through and look at our podcasts there as well. So just want to point that out. So today on Teammate Talks, we're going to be talking about word is bond, right? Your word is valuable, and sometimes when you have nothing left, it can be something that's leveraged as value to get you somewhere. I know this because it's what I did when I was homeless through 16, 17, and then I learned to let my word gain value, and if my word gained value, I learned how I could leverage that into new opportunities and different opportunities and things. It's really, really important. Word is bond used to be something I used to hear all the time when I was a kid. I don't really hear that too much anymore, but let me put it this way. It's all about trust and faith, right? Depending on whether you're talking about yourself or you're talking about others. So the more you give your word to others and then keep it, the more it builds the trust and reliability that they have in you. The more that trust and reliability is built both ways in a relationship, the closer that relationship becomes. Whether we're talking about our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our kids, our relationship with friends, that relationship becomes deeper and deeper the more that we're able to keep our word for each other and build that sense of trust. Now, that sense of trust also comes from conflict, right? Conflict is something a lot of us think about avoiding, but at the same time, it's through conflict that often builds higher levels of trust and bond between yourself and whoever you're trying to have that relationship with. Now, the bigger part of this I want to talk about is faith in yourself, right? So this comes down to confidence and self-esteem. Think about how many times you told yourself you're going to do something. You promised yourself you were going to get something done, and then you didn't get to it. You put it off. You did something, and you didn't end up getting it done, right? And then it feels kind of bad. The more that we give ourselves our word that we're going to do something, we're going to get in shape, we're going to start a class, we're going to learn how to defend ourselves, we're going to eat healthier, whatever it might be, we're going to try to be more kind, we're going to try to be more friendly, whatever it is that we promise ourselves, if we don't feel like we're keeping up with our promise, the first couple of times it may not seem like a big deal, but over time it really starts to shake your own trust in yourself. And what that really means is it shakes your faith in yourself, right? And so the more you make yourself a promise and then you're not able to keep it, the less faith you begin to have in yourself, the less self-esteem you tend to have. But if you're making those promises to yourself and you do what you got to do to keep those promises and you at least work towards it and try to make it happen, that's where we're going to build self-esteem and confidence, not only by taking on those challenges and reaching, points of personal victory and realizing that we overcame something we didn't think we were going to be able to, but also in learning to trust ourselves and learning to have faith in ourselves. Because then we learn to know that if we say we're going to do something, if we promise ourselves we're going to do something, then we're going to go ahead and do it, right? So this builds into procrastination. One of the biggest killers of faith in yourself and not keeping your word to yourself is procrastination. Now, procrastination on its surface isn't technically a bad thing, and it's something that we all learn as kids. There's a particular development stage that we go through where we test the limits of procrastination to see just how far we can push that limit and still get the thing done, or do we push it too far and then have to suffer the consequences of not getting that thing done? Now, if we don't feel like the consequences were a big deal and we don't ever hit that point of that negative emotion that we don't want to experience anymore, then we'll have a tendency to continue to not keep our word to ourselves and continue to procrastinate. But think about it this way. When's the last time you said you were going to do something? You're going to clean the counters, you were going to do the dishes, you were going to do the laundry or whatever, and then you find yourself sitting down watching TV or something else, doing something else along those lines. And then you remember, oh, I was going to go do this. And instead of going and doing it right now, instead of pausing the TV and going to do it right now, you go, well, I'll do it later. I'll put it off. But then while you're sitting there watching that TV, you start thinking about it, don't you? It pops back into your head over and over, and you start worrying about it. You start worrying about whether you're going to get it done. You start worrying about whether you're going to forget to do it and things like that. And then at that point, you're no longer enjoying what you're doing. You're no longer enjoying the TV you're watching or whatever it is. And, you're also giving yourself no chance at enjoying your task, because then by the time you start your task, you're already going to feel like you're behind on it. Since you're already going to feel like you're behind on it, you're going to give yourself not any opportunity to enjoy what you're doing at all. Sometimes it's better to just, guys, it's never been easier to just stop, especially when I'm watching TV. You can like literally pause just about any kind of TV now. When I was growing up, that was unheard of, right? You waited for the commercials, you tried to get everything you wanted to do during the commercials, and then you would run back when the TV show came back on. That's not a thing now, right? Like you can pause almost all TV, right? So this has to do with faith in yourself, but you feel a lot better if you stop and go ahead and get it done, then come back to what you were doing. You can go back to enjoying the thing that you were doing, and then, feels a lot better. So, procrastination, putting things off, or telling yourself you'll do it later, continuing to tell yourself you'll do it later, only leads to negative emotions directed at yourself, right? It leads to a conflict between the head and the heart, right? Where like maybe your head knows you want to do something, but your heart doesn't want to do it, or vice versa. These kind of conflicts are what build up a lot of unhappiness, right? When we have a conflict between our head and our heart. We can prevent a lot of these conflicts simply by using integrity. And it starts with being able to keep your word, right? When you keep your word to others, you keep your word to yourself, right? Then you can get everything on the same page. But if you make yourself a promise and then you don't do it, and you start feeling bad about it, right? Your heart starts to feel bad about it. So your heart thinks, man, I should do this. But then your head's kind of fighting, and you're like, well, I want to do this instead, or I need to do this instead, or what if I fail, or what if I fall, or what if I mess up, or what if I make a mistake? And then your heart and your head are in conflict with each other, right? And while your heart and your head are in conflict with each other, there is no happiness. There is no joy. There is no satisfaction, right? Now, the only way to really get back on track is to get your heart and head back onto the same thing. And that means the big first step to that is that when you decide you're going to do something, set out to do it. Make sure that you go ahead and follow through with your word. The more often you do that for yourself, the more faith that you have in yourself. Just like the more often you do that for others, the more faith they have in you. Also, the more often you do that for others, the more reliable you become to others, the more valuable your time and your energy and your word becomes to others. The easier it is to leverage that into deeper relationships, better career options, whatever it might be, right? And this is a big part of martial arts, right? A lot of people think of the martial arts and stuff that we do as solely learning how to fight or learning how to defend yourself. Guys, that's not what it's about. It's about learning how to live, right? And it starts off with learning how to defend yourself, because through that, hopefully you never have to, but it builds the confidence that you'll feel more confident about going out in public and being you instead of putting on a mask and trying to be someone else. And again, you end up with that head-heart conflict because you're not living with integrity. Integrity would say, if I believe it, right, then I need to live it. If I am this, then I need to live it. But if we go out there and we're always putting on masks because we're afraid of how other people respond or whatever it is, then we tend to get our head and our heart in conflict again, right? So if I believe that everyone should be nice to me, if I believe everyone should be kind in their interactions to me, then I need to be being kind to other people, right? The opposite of integrity is hypocrisy, which basically means if I believe everyone should be nice to me, but then I go around and I be a jerk to anyone else, whether they're being a jerk to me or not, or whatever it might be, then I'm not living by my belief. If I believe everyone should be nice to me, then I need to go out there and be nice to everybody else. And that's not, even if they're being mean to me, and that's that integrity, right? That's building that integrity. If I believe in being there, if I believe I'm my brother's keeper, if I believe in being there for my neighbors and other people, then I need to be there whenever I can, right? I can't say that I believe in that, and then when my buddy calls me up and says, hey, I ran out of gas out here, is there any way you can come get me? And there's a possibility that I can. That means I need to go do that, not say, oh, nope, you're on your own because I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? So that's about keeping your word to others, keeping your word to yourself. Integrity is about living to be you and living what you believe. So when we're in martial arts, we start learning to defend ourselves, because that way we're going to feel more comfortable being ourselves in public, right? And then we study how to bring out the best parts of ourselves, because too many of us are just super impulsive. We live our entire lives completely impulsively, right? We want something, we buy it right now. We think we want to do something, so we decide to do it. We kind of commit to it, but then later on we're not sure if we can commit to it, so then we don't keep our word to ourselves. We lose faith in ourselves through that impulsiveness, those making impulsive promises to ourselves or impulsive promises to others. So I treat my word, I treat my integrity the way I treat my money. I don't give it out lightly. And when I do give it out, I commit to it, right? Same thing with my word. I don't give it out lightly. I take it seriously. And when I do give it out, I commit to it. Because I know that if I can't commit to it, I'm going to end up feeling worse about myself, right? So I know if I make myself a promise and I can't commit to it, my self-esteem is going to go downhill. If I make myself a promise that I'm gonna lift weights 3 times a week, or I'm going to do a cardio workout 3 times a week, or whatever it is, and I don't do it, right? Maybe I start and I do it 1 week, and then the next week I let things get in the way, and I don't force myself to get up at 4 a.m. or do it late at night just to make sure it gets done, and I just let it pass and think, well, I'll cover it next week. Well, then I'm going to start feeling bad because I didn't keep that promise to myself. So my self-esteem is going to go down. My self-esteem goes down, the less likely it is for me to start to keep that promise and jump back on the bandwagon and get back on those workouts, get back to the classes I'm taking, whatever it is, because my self-esteem is down. So if you want to keep that self-esteem and confidence high, you want to keep that self-esteem up, first you have to overcome obstacles. When I say overcome obstacles, I don't mean go around obstacles, right? When you have an obstacle in your life, you have a problem, the best way is through. I've said this before many times. You try to go around, or you try to go over that obstacle, you try to kind of skirt your way around it, and the problem with that is you might make it, but you didn't gain the skills. You know what I mean? If you try to go through that problem, you actually try to solve the problem, you actually try to break through that obstacle, then you're going to learn the skills along the way that you're going to need for the next obstacles down the road. But if you're always going around the obstacle or trying to avoid the obstacle, then eventually you're going to get far enough down the road that you get to an obstacle you can't get around, and you don't have the skills to deal with it, right? So dealing with the problems as they come allows you to build the skills and knowledge and wisdom and things like that that you need in order to get through the harder obstacles the farther down the road you go. Right? And this has a lot to do with integrity as well. Again, it's about being yourself. It's about staying strong in yourself. If you believe something, do it, right? If you make yourself a promise, do it. Keep that faith up in yourself, right? Like I said, I treat it like money. When I want something, right, I try not to live terribly impulsively. I have to keep an eye on my impulsive behaviors a lot with my ADHD and all that stuff. I have to keep an eye on that. So I have rules, right? If I want to buy something, and it's not a need, right? First, I have to figure out that need versus want thing. If I want to buy something, I don't need it to live. I've been doing fine without it, but I want to buy something. I make myself wait a minimum of 30 days. And I don't write it down. I don't write down that I want it. I don't give myself a reminder. I just go, I kind of want that. I'd love to buy it today, so I'm not going to buy it today. I'm going to wait 30 days. Now, most of the time, I'm going to have forgotten about it in that 30 days. If I had forgotten about it, I didn't want it that bad. You know what I mean? If I still want it, I'm still thinking about it at the end of 30 days, then I will consider putting together the situation to buy it, right? I do the same thing with my word. I don't give it out lightly, right? And I take it very seriously when I do, because I know that if I can't keep it, I'm going to feel bad, or I'm going to make someone else feel bad and make someone else feel like I'm unreliable. And I don't want that, right? Because our word can have value. Our word is one of the only currencies that gains in value when we give it out and keep it, right? As long as we're giving it out and keeping it, it gains in value. If we give our word to ourselves that we're going to do something, and then we continue to commit and keep that, we're going to feel better about ourselves, right? I don't know how many times I've had people come in here, they take class for 3, 6, 9 months, a year, whatever. Something comes up and they got to take time off to deal with it, and that's all fine, right? We all have to do that from time to time. I have to do it from time to time, and I run this place. You know, it just happens sometimes. But the thing is at that time they promised themselves something like, I'm gonna come back in 6 months. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get to it, right? But then the longer they're gone, then they get to this point where they kind of forget about that promise. They forget about that promise they made to themselves, and then eventually it pops back up in their mind. Oh, I promised myself I was going to go back and do this, but then the self-esteem is a little bit down because I haven't been doing it and all that, and they start to let that self-esteem and their faith in themselves drop. And when that faith drops, it makes it even harder for them to come back. But then when they don't come back and they don't keep that commitment they made to themselves, then the self-esteem drops even more because they lose faith in their own word to themselves. They lose faith in their own promises with themselves. And then it becomes a running cycle, right? And that running cycle can become something that traps you into really dark places mentally, right? This can be a spark into a bout with depression. It could be a spark into a bout with anxiety, low self-esteem, and low confidence. And a lot of times, not every time, but there's a lot of times that deep down it's caused by not keeping our word to ourselves or not keeping our word to others, and then being concerned that it's going to hurt that relationship, right? Because once you It takes a long time to earn trust with somebody, right? A long time of giving them their word and keeping their word and them giving you their word and them keeping it to build up that trust. But it only takes a couple of times to tear it all back down again. You know what I mean? Once that trust is built, it only takes a couple of times of being unreliable at a bad time to be unreliable, and it completely cuts that trust back down again. And sometimes it can be impossible to earn it back for some people, right? At times. So it's one of those things, like integrity. You got to live at what you believe. You have to learn to keep your word to yourself and to other people. And like, if you believe in something, I mean, you really believe in something, then you got to try to live by that. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't change your mind, right? You should always be trying to learn new things, challenge your way of thinking, look at new viewpoints, look at other viewpoints, try to see things how other people see them, even if that's not your opinion or whatever. And you can change your mind. That's not what I'm talking about here. But what I am talking about is when you get to a point and you decide that something is very, very important to you. So for example, a lot of times this comes down to our letdowns as a kid, right? If we were made promises a lot as a kid and those promises weren't followed through, then it's going to become more important to us to keep those promises as we get older, right? If we wanted someone to care about us as a kid, but it felt like no one cared about us, then care is going to feel more important as we get older. But a lot of times we end up kind of just demonstrating the same behaviors that we were treated with, right? And that just kind of perpetuates the cycle. Or we can look at that and go, okay, I didn't get the care I needed. I didn't get the compassion I needed when I was a kid, so I'm going to believe that a person should live with a certain amount of care and compassion. Well, that's all right. Now you make that decision. Now you want to live by that, right? That's living with integrity. So then the next time you get a chance to show that compassion, you do. Next time you see someone broke down on the side of the road, you stop and help them. Next time you see someone who needs help carrying something, you stop and help them, right? We don't do that a lot, right? There's not a lot of that in our society today. I try to get out there and push that as much as I can. But your word is bond. Your word is like a verbal contract, whether it's with other people or with yourself. It becomes a contract, and your feelings, your emotions, even if your brain forgets that contract, your emotions don't. You know what I mean? So you make that contract and then you don't keep it. Your emotions are going to feel that. Your emotions are going to feel that. So if you want to build up faith in yourself, or you want to build up trust between you and somebody else, such as a parent or your child or whatever it is, then you've got to practice this concept of word is bond. If I say it, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Now, sometimes things come up and there's just no way you can make things happen, right? Sometimes that happens and you can't keep your word. You're probably going to feel bad about it. Best thing to do is be upfront and honest about it and just tell the person, hey, I'm really, really sorry, but I'm not going to be able to follow through with what I said this time. So let's make a new deal. Let's make a new agreement, because I don't want to lose your trust here. So let's make a new agreement, one that I can be sure that I keep next time. You know what I mean? All right, so this again, it all comes back to integrity. But integrity can be the foundation that we build our confidence on. Integrity can be the foundation that we build our perseverance on. Integrity can be the foundation we build our discipline on, right? And I told myself I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it, that sort of thing. So Ms. Rose said on here, excuses can't be your way through situations. That's right. What's the point of excuses? What is the point of excuses? Excuses don't solve the problem. Excuses don't make the problem go away. At most, excuses are a way for us to try to justify not dealing with the problem, a way around the obstacle, to not deal with the obstacle. But if we don't deal with the obstacle, then we don't learn the lessons we need to learn to deal with the next obstacle down that path, right? So if we keep using our excuses to refuse to deal with the obstacle that's in front of us, then we're going to find ourselves always going in a circular path. We're always going to come back around to these same obstacles until we learn to stop using excuses, and instead of looking for ways of reason we can't solve the problem or reasons we can't come up with a solution, start looking for reasons we can make it through the obstacle, ways that we can do it, right? Once we start doing that and we break through one of these obstacles, our circular path starts to branch out and starts to move on to a new area, right? Excuses are kind of pointless, right? I have an instructor, he's still here today, but he always says, well, how does he say that? He said, excuses are for you, not for me. So every time you try to give him an excuse for being late, or an excuse for not being your best one day, or an excuse for having trouble with stuff, he'll smile at you and he'll say, remember, excuses are for you, not for me, right? An excuse is just there to try to make you feel better about whatever shortcoming you're having right now, and other people don't care. Other people don't care about your excuse. Other people don't care about the reason you're having trouble with this is because you're tired today, and things along those lines, right? So it comes down to what is the point of excuses. So that's really all I want to talk about with Teammate Talks today is making sure that you use your word like your money, and that you take it very seriously, because it's through your word that you build relationships, not just with other people, but it's through those words that you build your relationship with yourself and your faith with yourself. Right? And then through that, making sure that you want to keep your word to yourself helps us build confidence. The more we keep our word to ourselves, the more confident we become, the more self-respect we start to show, the easier it is to commit to things, and the easier it is to use our discipline when those things get hard, right? So integrity is actually what we consider to be a core foundation of the martial arts, right? Integrity, respect, perseverance, discipline. These are all very core tenets of any martial art that you do. It could be Taekwondo, it could be Muay Thai, it could be Jiu-Jitsu, could be karate, or some type of karate. There's so many types of karate. It's not funny. It's kind of a loose term, but it could be any kind. It could be any kind of martial art, and these same tenets are going to be there. Now, each school will talk about them to a different extent, and we'll talk about them in a different way, but integrity is one of the foundation principles. First, figuring out who you are, what you like, what you wish there would be more of in the world, and two, trying to focus on being able to live that way. Martial arts is, like I said earlier in the video, it's not just about learning to fight and defend yourself. You can do that part, and that builds confidence. That's part of it. Part of it is also the physical fitness aspect, and part of it is mobility, and all of that stuff builds confidence. But the main thing of martial arts is it's not about directions on how to fight. It's about finding direction on living your life. It's about finding that integrity. It's about keeping your word. It's about learning to commit, right? It's about learning how to learn new things. It's about learning how to overcome obstacles. It's about learning how to take how sometimes it takes long-term solutions to fix problems, and it's about being able to take the time and commitment it takes to go through those long-term solutions. Guys, it is about life. Martial arts is about how to walk the path of life healthily, right? Physically healthy, physical fitness and all that, as well as eating and things along those lines, and mentally healthy, learning how to focus. Guys, you don't have time to overthink when you're in a fight. You don't have time. So when we practice, when we're sparring and stuff like that, you overthink sometimes. But what happens when you overthink when you're sparring or grappling or wrestling or something in here? When you overthink, you're trapped. When you overthink, you get trapped really quickly, and then once you're trapped, you really don't have time to overthink. So when you're in those positions, overthinking will lead to falling down. And so over time, the more we practice the movements, the more that we practice the drills, and then we go out there and we try to test those skills when we spar, when we wrestle, when we grapple, and things along those lines, the less overthinking we begin to do, because we start to realize in those moments that overthinking is not going to help us. You just got to pick a move and commit to it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it works out, it works out. But either way, you've got to pick something and go with it. Like when you're trapped in that choke, you got to pick something and go with it. You trapped in that headlock, you got to pick a technique and go with it. You trapped in a grab, you trapped in a clinch, you have to feel what they're doing and you have to go with it. You have to stop overthinking. So when most of us have a problem with overthinking, I know I have a serious problem with overthinking, right? Martial arts can help us learn to deal with those issues of overthinking, can help us to learn to find the present moment, which is really what it comes down to. Nothing pulls you into the present moment quite like feeling threatened or trapped. Then in that moment, you're in the present moment. You know, like that's the only thing that you can think about. So like I said, martial arts isn't just about learning how to fight, right? We use that as a vehicle, but it's about learning how to live. It's about learning how to be confident. It's about learning how to be yourself. It's about learning how to build self-esteem. It's about learning to keep promises with yourself and build your integrity and the value of your word. It's about building the strength to show compassion, guys. A lot of people think compassion and kindness is weak. Only weak people are compassionate and kind. Guys, it doesn't work like that. It takes strength to be compassionate and kind. You know why? Because to be compassionate, especially to someone who is mean to you or whatever else, to show that kindness and that compassion takes a level of fearlessness and strength to deal with being made fun of, to deal with people calling you weak, to deal with those things, because you know that deep down you've got a strength that they don't have. And you can get that not just through the physical training, but through the mental training, the focus training, right? The training in your integrity that builds the discipline, that builds the willpower, that gets you to be able to accomplish your goals, that gets you to be able to accomplish things you never thought you would be able to accomplish. It all starts on that foundation, right? Where do you think perseverance comes from? The will to keep going even when you want to give up, even when it gets really, really hard. Where do you think that comes from? That comes from integrity. That comes from going, I gave myself my word that I was going to do this, and I'm going to do it, right? That's where we get that whole thing where we talk about it's okay to quit, but never quit on a bad day, right? You quit on a bad day, you might just be quitting just because it's hard or just because you want to run away from an obstacle. If you want to quit and it's a bad day, wait till you get through that obstacle. Wait till it's a good day, then decide if you still want to quit. If you still want to quit, then great. right? You really had a good reason for quitting. But if you get to that sunny side and you decide you don't want to quit anymore, you want to see what's over the next hill, well, then you realize that you were only wanting to quit because it was hard for that moment. And so what gets you through that is giving yourself your word and keeping that word to yourself so that you learn to build faith in yourself, that you learn to build self-esteem, right? If you don't have integrity, it's hard to show any other character skill with consistency. That's all right. Integrity becomes the consistency of who we are. You know what I mean? So the thing is, like I said, integrity is the opposite of being a hypocrite. A hypocrite is someone who will say one thing, will do another. A hypocrite is someone who will be like, we should all look out for our neighbors, but then turn around and the first time their neighbor needs something, they turn their back. You know what I mean? That's being a hypocrite. A hypocrite is someone who tells their kids, don't lie to me, and then they turn around and lie to their kids. That's a hypocrite, right? And if you don't have that integrity to not do that, if you don't have that integrity to be honest and not do one thing and say another, right? So like I said, integrity is the opposite of that. You do what you say. It's not do one thing, say another. But like if you're the type of person that will tell your kids not to lie to you, but you'll lie to your kids, then that shows a lack of integrity. And that lack of integrity makes it hard to show strong character consistently. You know what I mean? You want to have strong character, you want to have and strong self-esteem and strong faith in yourself, then you need strong character consistently. And that starts with integrity, which means you have to take those morals that you want to live by, those morals that you believe in, such as maybe that words are valuable, maybe you believe that promises mean something, right? Word is bond. Maybe you believe that compassion is important. Maybe you believe that kindness is important. Maybe you believe willpower is important, whatever it is. Then it means you've got to go out there and live by that. If you believe that, but you're not living by it, this is where we end up with another one of those head-heart conflicts. And those head-heart conflicts will destroy our self-esteem and our faith in ourselves, right? So you got to put all that stuff together, and it really comes from integrity. Integrity is the first start. Integrity is like that moment that you decide, right? You decide this is the type of person I want to be. This is the thing. This is the type of thing I want to believe in. This is the way I think other people should be treated. And I make that decision. That's the beginning of integrity. Then I begin to keep that, right? I begin to keep my word, to keep that decision. That builds self-esteem. That builds confidence, and that builds faith in the self. Once the confidence and faith in the self are there through the willpower and determination, it creates perseverance and discipline. So it goes integrity, right? Integrity first, then perseverance to push through, then the discipline to keep going when you don't really want to, or you know, you're feeling down, and then after that comes the confidence, and then after the confidence, you can start learning how to focus your energies and focus your confidence on the things that are important to you, and bring that down and bring your full force down onto whatever it is that you need to accomplish at any given time, right? So integrity is really the foundation to not having the head-heart conflict, the foundation to being who you really are, the foundation to figuring out who you really are is integrity, right? So let me put it this way. If someone does something to you and it hurts your feelings, if they don't keep a promise to you and it hurts your feelings, if they lie to you and it hurts your feelings, if they're mean to you and it hurts your feelings, if they let you down and it hurts your feelings, then maybe you should believe in not doing that. So if you believe in not doing that, they shouldn't do that, then you don't do that, right? So if someone does something like that to me, someone does something to me that hurts my feelings, instead of going, oh, now I'm going to do that to other people and hurt their feelings, or I'm going to do it back to them and hurt theirs, no, that just causes problems, right? That just causes endless loops and cycles. Instead, I'm going to first walk away from that. I'm going to walk away from that toxicity and that bad behavior. And then second, I'm going to go, you know that thing they did to me that I didn't like and I didn't want done and it hurt my feelings? I'm going to make sure that I never do that to other people, right? This is how we can build a strong set of morals to build our integrity onto, right? And then when we become unshaking in those morals, when it gets to the point that we can't even talk ourselves out of those morals, right? We'll start to feel so bad if we don't keep our word, if we don't keep those morals, that we have to find a way to make it right. Right? And then we go out there and make it right. Guys, when you start to feel that way, you start to feel more confident. You start to feel more like you, because you start to live what you actually believe. And this is the core of integrity. So when you guys see this, or if you see this, make sure that anytime you see our posts or anything like that, you help us out with a like, comment, or share. Remember, our posts and things don't get shown to anybody without some likes, comments, and shares. They only get shown to a few people. If they don't react to it or comment on it, it dies there. So when you see this video, you see anything else, you see our podcast, make sure you're reacting, you're commenting, especially. Comments count for more than anything else. And you make sure they'll share those things, right? Or check out our podcast by searching Teammate Talks. Wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to this episode again as well once it's uploaded later today. Until I see you guys again, be the best teammates you can be, and be the best at being you.